I think that the only thing that counts is a commitment to excellence, a commitment to growth as a lawyer, and to doing a good job. And you're absolutely right that over the years, people's levels of Jewish identification has changed. I've seen it at the firm, and I've seen it at Sullivan and Cromwell among older partners who had not really focused on the fact they were Jewish in prior years. But I do think it's a very, very open society today, and it's a matter of just one personal note, a matter of curiosity to me that that in medical schools and hospital residencies, it's actually not quite as open to Sabbath observance today, to Shabbos observance, as it is in the law firms. And that's something that maybe another panel, another school, let's get Einstein to address. But it is there is no discrimination, overt or covert or implicit that I've seen, at least in my experience, or at least I'm totally insensitive to it. Does anyone have any questions for me? Do you want to go ahead and questions later? I don't know what the...
No, we'll have questions after the commentator.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Sorry? Well, see, the problem is I have a management committee meeting that starts at 12:30, but I told them I'd be late. Hopefully they won't kick me off. I'll still be here. So I'm prepared, say, till 1:45. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll ask the question to which I would preface by thinking that the answer is no, because it would apply to my firm and can't be firm yours. To what extent, if any, do you think that the presence of statutory law barring discrimination on religious grounds has led into any of the patterns that you described, which I agree with the description? I think the answer is no, but I just wonder because the two did overlap, and we've been seeing a lot of litigation in terms of religious discrimination. I just wonder whether law firms were sensitive to that, and did that lead to some of the openness that we're now seeing.
Actually, I think, much as I'd like to say, no, Larry's a partner at K.O. Gordon, for those of you who don't know, and he reminded me of a exchange we had. But I actually think it did have an effect, in fairness. I think that the activities of COLPA, which is an organization I don't think exists anymore, it was a Commission on Law and Public Action, was it? It was run by a guy named Dennis Rapps, which brought a lot of the, I'm sorry? Okay, exactly. That brought a lot of the Sabbath observance cases in the 70s, I guess. It was a big spate of them. I think actually probably did sensitize the law firms to the need to be cognizant of non-discrimination against people, leaving on early Friday and not working Saturday. The law firms, as you know, are very, very active on Saturday. And in fact, I started as an M&A lawyer. I went into real estate because we needed to establish a real estate department because it had previously been the province of the Jewish firms, but our non-Jewish clients, the investment banks, were going into real estate, so we had to follow. And I remember people, wondering how was I going to be able to manage, and we were able to manage. And part of the managing is by working very hard the rest of the time, so to try to do as seamless a job as you could. But I'm sorry, that's right. Larry reminds me that we had a call on the NBC, he was representing NBC GE in the Rockefeller Center transaction and the restructuring. And I said to him, some negotiation, I said, "Memanavshach," which is either way, which is a Talmudic Aramaic term. And the problem is that this is something that has no decent English translation that I've found. And in fact, I'm on the board of something called the Masorah Foundation, which is the Art Scroll Publications. And I asked the editors-in-chief at a board meeting, I said, do you have any decent translation of Memanavshach as a Talmudic reasoning concept, which is, well, either way you go, you get to the same result. And damned if you do, damned if you don't. And they sent me they did a computer check. They had 14 different translations that appear throughout the Talmud, none of which were precise. So Larry educated Gary Wendt, and I educated Niarchos and Agnelli as to what it meant.
I'm wondering
We do. I actually had an associate who I was very close with, who worked with me for many years, who was a playmate of the King of Morocco, very religious Sunni Muslim. And we have many Muslims today with some with head coverings, just like the kippot. And I don't think there's any. I do think that Muslims today, post 9/11 in New York, have an issue that's unfortunate, and they feel it, and we try to be sensitive to it. But I don't think there's any. To the contrary, there is a desire to do work by the law firms in the Muslim world. I did some of the original Sharia decisions of structures back in the 80s before they developed the body of their own rabbis, and structuring. And I based it actually on the Heter Iska, which is Suzanne knows, teaches Mishpat Ivri, but as you know, the scriptures prohibit the charging of interest for loans. The Quran, it's called ribit in the Torah, it's called riba in Sharia, in Islamic law. And in the 80s, as Islamic people started, Islamic institutions started making real estate investments in the United States, Goldman Sachs asked me to structure something based on my Talmudic knowledge, which would work for Islamic law. And we did, a participating mortgage, which was basically a partnership interest as opposed to interest, which is what Israeli banks have. And today there's now a body of Saudi and Pakistani, et cetera, scholars that do that. And this is something law firms are interested in because it's an important part of the world. Sorry, Suzanne, were you trying to add something, or you had your hand up? Sorry. Okay. All right. Go ahead. Look, I'd like to think that the firm is colorblind, gender blind, sexual orientation blind, ethnicity blind. My experience, honestly, has been, relatively that it has. When I became a partner at a relatively young age and a young period of time, and the American lawyer had profiled me, and they interviewed someone who was viewed as the quintessent WASP at the firm, a guy who actually was on the management committee at the time, whose seat ultimately I took, a guy named Bill Willis, William E. Willis. Could you imagine a better name? And they asked him whether Joe's Orthodox Jewishness held him back, which was about as dumb a question as you can ask in the context, because I couldn't do it in kindergarten. And he said, "Oh, is Joe Jewish?" and I'm sure it was a little bit of a joke. But the reality is that I think up down, I don't think it's had any effect. I think laterally in those relationships among associates and among partners, I don't think it's had any effect. People have to recognize that they can't shirk work. They'll say, "Hey, I'm not working Saturday, I'm shirking work." People carry the burdens, but I actually have not seen it. Oddly enough, on a personal level, I'm actually very, very glad that I am who I am, but I actually think it's helped me in my practice. I mean, I have clients today who assumed I'm smarter than I am, because how else did I get there?